Good afternoon. I'm Mrs. Klein and I'm back. So, today I want to discuss, actually you might hear some thunder in the background. It's bright and sun is shining, but I think it's about to rain. So I wanted to talk about whose responsibility is this mess, okay? And by mess, I mean the mess of the education system, right? The mess of students not living up to our expectations, right? Our expectations as teachers, admin's expectations, like the education system's expectations, parents' expectations, right? You know, who is responsible for students not being as successful as we would hope them to be, or maybe even reaching their fullest potential, right? And because I know we feel the weight. I know teachers, we feel the weight of responsibility of student success, right? We feel that if students don't perform on state testing, or if they don't perform on our assessments that the state, you know, like assessments that we give them but are created still by the state, right? We feel the weight of failing those kids, right? And it's not just weight that we put on ourselves, which is part of it, but weight that admin puts on us, weight that parents put on us, right? Is it really, who is responsible? Who really is responsible for the success of the students, right? Teachers feel the weight of it and we feel responsible, but are we actually the ones ultimately responsible for students meeting the expectations we put on them and the expectations the state puts on them and the parents put on them and all of these things, right? And I don't want to say that teachers have no responsibility, right? I don't want to say that. But what I will say is we are not the ones. I would say that in a long line of responsibility, we are the last ones on the list. I will say that, okay? And the reason I'm bringing this up is I think this is the reason why a lot of teachers feel like quitting, right? I think a lot of teachers feel the weight, feel like failures because their kids are failing. They're failing the state tests or whatever. Or socially, you know, you feel like the kids are failing or whatever. Okay, and so because we feel that weight, I think a lot of teachers are leaving the profession, okay? And I certainly felt that, right? That's why I changed jobs several times, was because I felt that weight of failure. and it wasn't just something I made up. It's definitely something that has been put upon me by all of these different groups of people, right? Mostly at different administrations, not at my most recent job, but at, you know, I would say all of the other schools have definitely made me feel, and I don't know about my first school either, but I don't know. I could probably say all. I think I feel safe enough to say most, if not all, schools really put this pressure on teachers to feel responsible for the success or failure of their students, okay? And if the students fail, then you're not doing enough, okay? You need to be supplementing more, or you need to, you should have retaught that again. Or, it's innumerable the amount of reasons that it's the teacher's fault, okay? Now, I say that not to make teachers victims, okay? And I've seen this on social media a lot, where, you know, woe is me, you know, with the teachers, like as if, in a lot of ways we could be treated better, right? Teachers could be treated better in a lot of ways. But I say this in a very real way to I want teachers to not feel that burden, right? And let's think about what goes into educating a student possible, right? What is that laundry list of people responsible for the educating of students in America, at least, right? We have school boards, okay? We have school boards on school boards on school boards, okay? And then we have administration with principals and vice principals. We have parents. I mean, they're part of the educating of a student, right? If the parent doesn't get the student to school, then we can't educate them, right? I mean, and related to like making sure the student, encouraging students, right? Parents are a part of it, a big part of it, right? You got school boards. You have there was something else I'm probably forgetting. But there's a long laundry list of people who determine what the students are learning, what time students show up, how long they're at school, what's involved in the curriculum, what we as teachers are allowed to give, what we're allowed to teach the students, what we're required to teach, and assign them these assessments, right? If you're it will depend on private school, public school, charter school. All of those have different hierarchies of power, but all at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which one you're looking at. The teacher is the last on the list, right? And if you're thinking about an army, right? If you're thinking about a battle, and you go to a battle and there's, you have, like, say you're a general and you are sending your foot soldiers to go fight your war, okay? If the foot soldiers fail, it's not the fault of them. They're the last line of defense, right? They're the people enacting what the general has told them to do, okay? Whether the foot soldiers succeed or fail, it hinges on what the general has decided to do, right? And I say this to help other teachers understand that you are not personally responsible for the failure of our education system, right? And I don't think I think success or failure is malleable depending on the school you're at or the state you're at. The level of success or failure will depend on where you work and live and all of those things, right? So not all schools are equal, right? As far as success or failure, okay? But if you feel like these students are failing in a particular area, you are the last person on the list who should be held responsible for the success or failure of the students. We do have some responsibility, right? You have a responsibility to show up at work every day, right? You have a responsibility to present the materials that you're required to teach, right? To be aligned to the state requirements and federal Common Core requirements, okay? You have a duty for those things. So you are not without any responsibility, but if you're rising to the occasion and you're doing your job, right, which we're being paid to do, right? If you are meeting the requirements, right? And obviously you are, otherwise you would have been fired, right? If you're doing your job and someone's, they're still paying you to do it, probably means you're doing a good enough job, right? Otherwise they would let you go. At the end of the day, if you're doing what they've asked you to do, that's all you can do, right? Obviously, as much as possible, we try to supplement lessons, right? But even that, right, is still not completely on us. In order to supplement a lesson, like at my current job, I have a team of other 5th grade teachers who can help me supplement what I'm doing, okay? Other English teachers, which is wonderful, right? That means it's still not all on me. And again, that support level will depend on whatever school you're at. But again, it's admin or the school board's job. If you need support, they should be providing that support in whatever way they can, right? Which again is still not on you. Even if you're at a private school and you have to create a curriculum or whatever, okay? Depending on the responsibilities they've given you and the money they're paying you, and if you show up and you do your job to the best of your ability and what you think is reasonable based on your pay and the job requirements, okay, then that's all you can do. And if at the end of the day the students are not successful in some area that you had hoped they would be successful in, it's not at the end of the day on you, okay? And usually admin should be working toward, okay, they didn't succeed on this year, so next year we'll implement some way of supporting you so that they can do better on this area next year. And that's the way they should be acting and treating teachers, is like, okay, if the students failed, the teacher's just implementing what we've given them, right? And if the students failed, then we need to find out, what's causing them to fail and how we can support teachers, right, to do a better job. And at the end of the day, maybe you could have spent more time on a rubric or on grading or on this or on that. I don't know how much of that really impacts student scores or whatever. Spending more time on grading, does that really impact student scores? I don't know. But what I do know is if admin doesn't like what you're doing, they can sit down with you personally and talk about it. But I suspect this is going to be true for a lot of people. For a lot of us, we feel this responsibility as if we are failing the students, when at the end of the day, yeah, we're a part of it, but we are not the system, right? We are the foot soldiers of the system, and we are being paid to do a job. We are being paid to implement the curriculum they've given us, or to, if you're at a private school, maybe you have to create more. I don't know. But even then, usually private schools pay for curriculums even there, right? And so at the end of the day, I want you to take that weight off of yourself, right? I want admin or the school boards or parents will try and point the finger at you and make you feel responsible, right? They will do everything possible, because if the students do fail, I've experienced this at one of the schools I was at previously, right? When the students fail, sometimes, not always, but sometimes admin will point the finger at teachers so that we're the scapegoats, right? So it's like, you weren't doing enough, right? And this is not the way it should be, but this is sometimes the way it will fall out, is at a faculty meeting, it's like, you need to work later, or you need to do this, or you need to do, I don't know, right? I don't want to say too much, right? But what I will say is, they will, if they can, try to put the blame and responsibility on you. And like I said, this isn't going to be true for all people. Hopefully a good admin wouldn't do this, but I have experienced it, so obviously I'm probably not the only one, right? And you have to ignore it. I don't know the best way I don't know any other way to say it. You just have to ignore these people who are trying to blame you for something that you're the foot soldier. You're just implementing whatever they've given you, or you're enacting whatever policy. Or maybe they've created bad policies where it's like work you can't even keep up with, right? It's like they're asking you to do a workload that's not physically doable within the hours that are reasonable to work, right? And let's say they're asking you to do work that keeps you at school till 10 p.m. Okay, now like I said in a previous video, you need to flex what you're doing, change what you're doing, and plan so that you don't have to work that late. You shouldn't have to, right? But if, let's say, admin is forcing you to do that kind of work that is unreasonable, okay, I don't mind staying an extra hour after work, but until 10 p.m. is beyond, right? And so, or super early, 5 a.m. or something like that. 10, I have done that before. And you have to ignore it and refuse to accept the responsibility that the undue responsibility that they're trying to force upon you, right? They're trying to make you feel like you're responsible so that they don't take the heat, right? And at the end of the day, if they aren't sitting down with you one-on-one, right? A one-on-one I can respect, because then it's like, okay, what am I personally doing that could do better? But if they're just calling out all teachers at a faculty meeting, you just have to ignore those kinds of things, right? Because it's not, you're just implementing whatever policies for your job responsibilities that they've asked of you. And they're just trying to hide from responsibility behind all of the teachers. And it's not fair, it's wrong. But at the end of the day, if they are not sitting down with you one-on-one to say personally, I can respect sitting down with me one-on-one. But if it's just a faculty meeting thing, then you just have to ignore that kind of stuff and not allow that to get to you and make you feel like you need to quit the job, right? They're just doing that to make themselves feel better. They're just doing it to hide behind you because if they're not calling out one particular teachers to fire you or whatever, then it's not really your fault, right? You have to be a little bit callous, and you have to just put that away, put that aside, ignore that. I mean, I've seen this a lot with schools, right? Schools will change admin well, that's not a good analogy. I probably shouldn't say that. But you know what I mean? Like, admin will change very often, like a revolving door, okay? And you just have to do your job. And if you like your job, then you stay there. Or if you don't, you can move on. But if you like your job, just stay there and ignore the scapegoating that is trying to happen if it's just like a simple public setting. If it's a private setting, that's going to be different, right? But if it's just a public lashing, literally, I've been through this, right, in a faculty meeting where it's just a public lashing. And actually a few times at different schools I have experienced, at both of them charter schools, but just this public lashing of showing the scores that the students made, and making you feel very responsible for the performance of the students, and making you be down on yourself. And man, that public lashing is something, but you have to just ignore it. If they really have a problem with it, they will support you, and they'll sit down on one-on-one with you, and they will come up with a solution, right? But that's not obviously you're intimately involved with your teaching, and you're going to do the best you can with trying to improve your teaching, but that takes years and years and years of experience, right? Every year think, what am I going to do better next year? But that's not something you can fix overnight. That's not something you can fix within a week or a month, right? It takes years of experience to figure out the right teaching methods and the right kinds of curriculum that meets, and every place you teach is going to have a different way of teaching, different technology use, different students in different economy, some students will be from higher, have better backgrounds, and some will have, different, even within a class, I've seen this where, anyway, I'm getting off topic. The point is, there's a lot of factors that go into making a student as successful as they can be and reaching their fullest potential, including the student themselves, right? You have the student, you have the parent, you have the administration, you have the school board, you have the curriculum you're given. and the kinds of assessments they're asking of these kids, and the social economic class and other things that these students have to deal with at home. And ultimately, you do the best you can with what you have, and don't worry. Just push away all of that extra responsibility that others try to put upon you, and ignore what you can, because really, I really do have started to enjoy teaching so much more. I enjoy teaching so much more now that it affected my self-esteem, right? Because I felt like it was my fault. I felt like a failure as a teacher, and I felt like I wanted to quit the profession. But now that I've set that aside, and I just try and do my job and fulfill my responsibilities as decided by the school, I have this weight taken off of me. I feel like I enjoy teaching more. I enjoy my students more. And I just don't worry about all that extra stuff that all these other people, all these pressures, external pressures that these other people are trying to put upon me. I set all of that aside so that I can be the best teacher I can. And frankly, I think if you do this, if you try and set aside all those external pressures, right, and just say those, I can't worry about those things, right? Do the best that I can, and still maintain a home life and have a family, and have boundaries on my job, and I think by doing this, I was burning out, right? And so now that I'm on a different trajectory with my teaching and my life, I feel like I'll be able to make it to the 30-year mark. I feel like I'm going to avoid that teacher burnout, okay, that I was headed toward. I was already in, right? And this profession needs teachers, right? And we're destroying ourselves, right? You're not doing anyone any favors by taking on this responsibility as if you're the sole person responsible for this kid reaching their fullest potential, right? You're not doing anyone any favors, because you're going to burn yourself out, and then you won't be a teacher at all. And what will happen to the kids is there will be no one there to fill the space, and either they'll have someone who's not a very good teacher take your spot, because they take what they can find, someone who maybe isn't certified, or they just make our classroom sizes bigger, which is kind of what's been happening, right? Why are the classroom sizes bigger? Because no one's going into teaching. So they're just dividing up the students among who's left, right? And that's not doing anyone any favors, right? There's no reason. I think if you can shove off all those external pressures and just not accept that upon yourself, you'll be more willing to stay in the profession. You'll be happier. You'll enjoy the students more, and this profession will be a better place for everyone, right? Because you just have to. It's not easy. It's hard. It's hard when you're sitting in a faculty meeting and you're looking at these state scores, and it's hard when you're when it feels like everyone is against you, right? That no one is on your side. But you're in this job for a reason. Don't let all these external pressures take away that joy. Don't let all these external pressures push you out of what can be a really enjoyable job, what can be a really fulfilling job. And what serves the students best, if you love the kids and you are doing your best and you show up every day and you actually teach, right? You do your job. That's all these kids need, is someone who's willing to do the job. And compared to, and you're certified and you enjoy them, that's so much more important than accepting all these external pressures and internalizing them, which pushes you out of the profession, makes you quit, and And I mean, like I said, you can always find, I mean, if you want to, I'll never stop somebody from trying to reach their dream job, but maybe this was your dream job and now you think maybe it's not because of all these external pressures. Okay, don't let these external pressures take away your joy in what can be a dream job for you. If that's what you always, I mean, if this was your dream job and this is what you really want to do with your life, right? If there's something else out there you would rather do, go for it, right? Wouldn't stop you. But if this was the job you always wanted to do, and then you get into this job and you find all these external pressures and you just want to quit, man, you got to let that go, right? If this really is the job that you always wanted to have, you have to let it go. And I know it's hard. It's easy to say and hard to do. But every year I'm relearning this. I don't worry about it. I hear the teachers, their anxiety in the lounge, right? The anxiety that they feel. I hear it in their voice. Every other day they're talking about, and the older you get, I think the more you like chill out and you just let it go and you just do your job, and the kids will be better for it and so will you, right? So that's what I have to say about that. I don't know if I said it in the best way, right? I'm new at vlogging, but those are my thoughts on whose responsibility in this mess. And it's basically, you're the last on the list. Whoever is responsible, it's not solely on you. The world doesn't revolve around you, right? That's the other thing I will say, is the educator system doesn't revolve around you, the singular teacher. Don't make it about you, right? Get up, go to work, enjoy your students, show them how much you love teaching them, and don't worry about the rest. Don't worry about all the external pressures. Let it go, and you will be much happier for it. I promise. All right, that's all I have to say. Bye-bye.